Officer Ethan Caldwell thought it was just another routine stop. Until everything changed. Officer Ethan Caldwell had no idea that one routine traffic stop would spiral into a moment that would shatter his entire career. In just a matter of minutes, his authority, his reputation, and everything he had built over 2 decades came crashing down. The flashing red and blue lights reflected in the rearview mirror. Nothing out of the ordinary. Regina Owens exhaled, a quiet sigh escaping her lips as she tightened her fingers around the steering wheel. Without hesitation, she guided her sleek black Audi Q7 to the side of the road. Her movements smooth, practiced. This wasn't her first time being pulled over, and something in her gut told her it wouldn't be the last. The quiet streets of Brentwood, Tennessee, stretched around her. Towering houses, each one a testament to wealth and careful upkeep, stood proudly behind pristine iron gates. The lawns were meticulously trimmed, glowing golden under the soft evening sunlight. This neighborhood had been her home for over 10 years. She knew every street, every landmark, every familiar face. And yet, she also knew how she must have looked. A black woman behind the wheel of a high-end vehicle, driving through an area where people like her were still viewed with suspicion. Her eyes flickered toward the rearview mirror. The officer hadn't even stepped out of his vehicle yet, but she already knew how this was going to play out. She had lived through this script too many times before. Calmly, deliberately, she reached for her phone and pressed record, setting it on the passenger seat without a word. Not because she expected this to go viral. Not because she planned to make a scene. But because she had learned over time that it was never wise to leave the truth in someone else's hands. Then the patrol car door swung open. The encounter begins. Ethan Caldwell stepped out. His presence radiating the kind of unchecked authority that came from years of wielding power without question. He was a man in his late 40s, built like a linebacker, with a rigid posture that suggested he hadn't loosened up in years. His uniform was pristine, his badge polished to a shine, and his belt, loaded with the tools of enforcement, sat snugly around his waist. He moved with purpose, each step slow, deliberate. His hand rested just a little too naturally near his holster. Regina inhaled deeply, controlling her breath, steadying herself. "Here we go." He stopped just behind her window, forcing her to turn slightly to see him. His stance was calculated, keeping her in a position where he had control. "License and registration," he said. His voice flat, devoid of warmth or explanation. Regina kept both hands on the wheel. Her voice was steady, unshaken. "Mind telling me why I was pulled over?" Caldwell's expression hardened. His gaze narrowed, scanning her face, taking in her features as if searching for a reason not to like her. "You failed to signal at that last turn," he stated, his tone firm. Regina blinked, the statement rolling over in her mind. She had driven this route more times than she could count. She knew she had used her turn signal. Still, she nodded to herself, as if acknowledging an unspoken truth. "All right," she said evenly. "My license and registration are in my purse. I'm going to reach for them now." She waited. She wasn't about to make any sudden movements. Caldwell hesitated for a fraction of a second, eyes dropping to her tailored blazer, the delicate gold bracelet circling her wrist, the well-maintained nails. He was sizing her up, making a silent assessment. Then, a smirk twitched at the corner of his mouth. "Go ahead," he said slowly. "But do it real slow." Regina bit back the irritation prickling at the back of her mind. This wasn't her first time playing this game. She moved with controlled precision, retrieving the documents and handing them over. Caldwell took them, but instead of inspecting them right away, he lingered. Watching. Waiting. She let the silence stretch. Finally, he glanced at her license. His expression shifted, just for a second before snapping back into place. "You live around here?" he asked casually, feigning small talk. Regina's jaw tightened just slightly. "Yes," she replied. "About 2 miles down the road." Caldwell clicked his tongue, flipping the license between his fingers. "Really?" He glanced at the address again, as if expecting it to change. "And what brings you this way?" Regina let out a small, humorless laugh. She shook her head, staring ahead for a moment before turning her gaze back to him. "I wasn't aware I needed a reason to drive in my own neighborhood." The air between them shifted. His smirk vanished. "Ma'am," he said, his voice dropping into something firmer, "I'm just doing my job." Regina met his gaze, her voice unwavering. "No," she said. "You're not." The words hit like a slap. Caldwell's posture changed. His back straightened, his shoulders squared. His fingers flexed near his holster. The power dynamic had shifted, and he knew it. The moment that changed everything. Ethan Caldwell sat in his patrol car, her license still clutched in his grip. The name meant nothing to him. But the address, it gnawed at the back of his mind. Something wasn't adding up. He glanced at the black Audi parked under the dim glow of a street lamp. She wasn't nervous. That irked him more than he cared to admit. Most people, especially women, fumbled through their words during traffic stops, eager to comply, anxious to get it over with. But she sat there calm, composed, like she had nothing to fear. That wasn't normal. He wasn't a bad cop. 20 years on the force had built him a reputation. Strict, no nonsense, respected. He didn't play games, didn't waste time with chit-chat, and didn't tolerate attitudes from people who thought they were above being questioned. And Regina Owens. She had just tested him. His radio crackled. "Unit 22, status check." He grabbed the receiver. "Routine traffic stop. No backup needed." He set it down, eyes locked on the screen in front of him. The database confirmed what he already suspected. No criminal record. No priors. Nothing to justify pushing further. And yet, he wanted to. His gut told him there was more. He reached for the door handle. His decision was already made. Boots hitting the pavement, he walked back toward her car, slower this time, his stance heavier. Regina turned, her face unreadable. "Everything good, officer?" she asked. Ethan leaned down slightly, his hand resting on the doorframe. "You got somewhere to be." His voice was calm, but something darker lurked beneath the surface. Regina didn't blink. "Home." He let the silence stretch before delivering the line he knew would get under her skin. "Funny," he smirked. "You don't look like someone who lives in this neighborhood." Regina inhaled deeply, exhaling through her nose. Controlled. A badge wielded like a weapon. But this time it backfired. Some officers saw their badge as a symbol of duty, a commitment to justice. Others, they wielded it like a weapon, not to enforce the law but to demand obedience. They weren't interested in fairness or public safety. They thrived on power, on making sure people, especially people like her, knew exactly who was in control. Regina Owens had seen men like Ethan Caldwell before. She had watched them operate with impunity, using intimidation as a tool, authority as a means to suppress. She had witnessed how they turned routine stops into warnings, warnings into threats, and threats into something far worse. But not tonight. She inhaled deeply, keeping her breath steady, her posture composed. She refused to give him what he wanted. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her squirm. "If you have my information, officer," she said, her voice even unwavering, "am I free to go?" Caldwell tilted his head slightly, his lips curling into something between amusement and irritation. "What's the rush?" he asked, his tone light but carrying an edge. Regina didn't flinch, didn't blink. "I have nothing else to say," she stated firmly. "Either write me a ticket or let me go." For a moment, Caldwell just stood there, eyes fixed on hers, weighing his options. The seconds stretched between them, thick with tension. And then, without a word, without a single warning, he moved. His hand shot forward, reaching for her door handle. Regina's entire body went rigid, instinct taking over before logic could catch up. In a split second, she locked the door just before his fingers could close around it. The sharp click of the lock echoed louder than it should have in the quiet street. Her pulse slammed against her ribs, but she didn't let it show. She forced herself to keep her face unreadable, her expression calm, even as adrenaline roared through her veins. Caldwell's jaw tightened. His entire demeanor shifted. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered, his voice dropping into something sharper, colder. The casual act. The smirking condescension. Now there was only the demand. Regina met his stare, refusing to shrink under it. "On what grounds?" she asked, her tone steady. Caldwell straightened, adjusting his stance, his fingers shifting just slightly toward his hip. "Do I really need to spell that out for you?" Regina knew exactly where this was heading. She had seen it play out before. If she moved too fast, she'd be accused of reaching. If she hesitated, she'd be accused of resisting. If she protested, she'd be labeled uncooperative. And if she complied too quickly, she'd still be the problem. No matter what she did, the story would be rewritten against her. But there was one thing she also knew. He had no idea who she was. She exhaled, slowly rolling her shoulders back. She had given him every opportunity to walk this back, to de-escalate. He had made the choice not to. Fine. Without breaking eye contact, she moved. Deliberately, slowly. She reached for her phone. "I'm recording," she said. Caldwell let out a dry, humorless chuckle. "Oh, you think that scares me?" His voice dropped, his smirk curling with condescension. He leaned in just slightly, enough to make his presence loom. "Lady, do you have any idea how many times I've heard that before?" His fingers twitched near his holster. Not enough to be blatant, but just enough.